Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello and welcome back to Homeschool Together. I am Clark Griswold and that is Ellen Griswold over there. And we are back from family vacation. do, 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 do.
You're so silly. Yeah, we're back. We just spent a month-long trip we didn't go as exotic this year. If you followed us.
Oh, Ariel, this is exotic.
If you followed us, we went
It was a warm climate, subtropical. Wildlife everywhere.
Yeah.
Both 2- and 4-legged varieties.
Okay. So if you followed us, you know that we spent a month on the road in Ireland last year and took our homeschool there, which was an amazing experience. One of the things we realized when we went is that, it was great for children and we loved it, but it also really wasn't like made for them, which was really fine for our then 7-year-old. For our then 3-year-old, it was not as awesome. I mean, she got something out of it, but I don't think we thought, we're going to do something this year that's kind of more like geared towards her while she's still so little, because she's 4, almost 5. So we decided to bite the bullet and go to Orlando, which, immediately we all think about Disney, maybe the Universal, Harry Potter theme park stuff there. We think about that initially, and beaches and things. But actually, we found a lot of great stuff to do there. It was really educational. So this is going to be a 2-parter because there's a lot of information to impart, y'all. And
it's hard to unpack it, yeah.
There's some really great homeschooling and education stuff, but then there's also some just survival tips and some advice we have for navigating some of these big parks and saving some money and things that I did. Me, I'm the planner, right? Somebody said the other day that planning is my love language. And I was like, I need this on a t-shirt because I feel like
Hold on, I need to take a note.
I feel like that is me totally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I planned and I researched and tried to find just as much as we could do in the month that we were there. And we want to share with you what we've learned and our big takeaways from it.
So obviously we talked a little bit about why we chose Orlando. Also, we were from this kind of area. We were on the ocean side and the Atlantic side for a number of years. Yeah,
it was one of the places that you and I both lived during our lives, and where we met was in Florida. We both went to college in Florida.
We're very familiar with
even
this
though
whole.
We're not from Florida.
Yeah, I know. We're very familiar with this whole area and this region, and
right.
It wasn't a kind of a foreign place for us.
Yeah, it was a little bit easier in that sense, which was nice.
Yeah.
And it was just something that we knew there was going to be really tons to engage our very active youngin, especially. And our older daughter is a super Harry Potter nerd, and I've never been to Harry Potter World either at Universal, and so I was pretty excited about that too. So yeah, we chose Orlando actually kind of like right when we got back from our trip. I think actually we decided this when we were still in Ireland.
That's our MO, is to figure out the next trip while we're on the current trip.
Right. And right now, just spoilers, we don't know where we're going to go next year for our big trip. And we've been like really talking about, and I think we've decided that we're going to be doing another round the world journey here, a condensed version, a little bit different. We're going to change some things up with our younger daughter, and both our daughters together actually be the first thing the two of them do together. And we'll have lots to say about that. But I think we're actually going to go through that and see if something strikes us.
Yep.
As a place to go, because our older daughter definitely wants to travel internationally next year. And so we're going to see if like something just really looks like it sparks all of our imaginations and interest. And
it is the place.
Yeah, we'll see where it takes us.
So the first thing, whenever you do a long stay like this, and if we'll go ahead and put in the show notes below a lot of the information from our previous trip, and you can learn some of the things that we learned about there. But being gone for an entire month,
There's quite a few considerations.
We do have a lot of considerations, especially around the accommodations. Now, we did a little bit of movement in Ireland last year, but that was towards the end of our trip. The last 5 or 6 days, we were kind of on the move. For the bulk of that trip, we were in one location.
Right. And we had interviewed some road schoolers earlier on the podcast, and they'd said that they just Airbnb'd it. They didn't do the RV thing. They had a minivan and they just Airbnb'd it around the country, and they ended up even going to Europe with it. And one of the things we learned is if you stay over 28 days, some hosts, not all, and it's not done by Airbnb, it's actually that the host determines this, can give you a significant discount on the month stay. So, for example, on our trip to Ireland, we were able to get our place for I think $900 off. This one was just about $1,000 off because we stayed for 30 days on this one. So anything over 28 days. So that 28 days is the magic number. So if you're going to go search on Airbnb, there's a button to click that says search by months. Mm-hmm. And, you can be a little flexible on the dates, but it'll show you those prices, assuming that you're getting a month. The whatever the discount is for staying over a month. So just for reference, for those of you who are planning and budgeting, we're gonna give you all the numbers. So we rented a condo. It's just on the bottom floor of a 3-story condo complex.
It was a single floor, kind of a flat type of thing.
Right. Yeah. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath. In a gated community with a community center and a pool and all that stuff. It was about 14 minutes from Disney, and we got it for $3,200 for the whole month.
That's really good for us.
Which isn't bad. I mean, considering, how long you're staying, it's not too shabby.
Yeah.
So one of the big things about accommodations for us is obviously we're looking for something that's going to fit all of us. We've learned our girls really, if we can get them separate rooms, it's just easier because our younger doesn't seem to sleep really well with their older. She's just
excited.
So excited. She wakes her up early. And so we definitely always want a kitchen. We want to be able to cook. It's a way that we not only save money, but help to just make it a more homey environment for the kids too.
It allows us to make it a little bit more normal and be able to cook some meals that the girls are, familiar with and they're comfortable. Mm-hmm. And especially on those first few days, bringing some home cooked meals that they're familiar with can kind of ease them into the, wherever we are.
Yeah, our best advice is to always start with breakfast for dinner.
We
always have breakfast. We had it in Ireland. We had it here. Whenever we go on vacation for cooking for ourselves, that's our first thing because it's just the ultimate easy comfort food. The whole family is just okay, breakfast. I don't know why. That's just our come up with your own comfort thing. But one of the reasons we travel in these longer stretches is because, especially with kids, it's really hard to do the hopping around thing. If we were going to go to Europe or somewhere, we'd stay someplace for a few days, then we'd hop, then we'd hop, then we'd hop. It's really tough to do that with the kids. They don't make those transitions as easily, and definitely their behavior gets squirrely. They get tired. They get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. It seems to be a lot better to let them kind of settle in and come up with what their new normal is in this new space. And it's funny because now that we've traveled this way twice. We've traveled long trips. We took 4 weeks in Europe before we had our older daughter,
a baby moon. Yeah.
Yep. And boy, by about week 3 there,
I wanted a hamburger real bad.
Well, yeah, but even before we were maybe at week 2.5, right at the 2.5 week mark, and we were we're really ready to go home. We were tired because we were going we
were jumping everywhere.
We were jumping. We were 2 days here, 3 days here,
yeah.
And so we say, we do these longer travel for the kids, but I think it's also for us. It is really nice to just unpack your things into the drawers, go to the grocery store, and you get an experience, you get a sense of what it's like to live someplace, mm-hmm. Which was awesome in a foreign country. Even in Orlando, that was great. We went to a lot of stores where, there's a lot of people speaking Spanish, and that mm-hmm. was a really cool experience for our daughters to hear.
Well, especially in
other languages, international, lots of travelers.
Yeah, where we were kind of in that kind of the bottom end of all the Disney parks, and there are a lot of international travelers there. So it was really cool to see. It felt almost, I joked that the Walmart that we kept shopping at was like the United Nations of Walmart, because it was
so many languages.
Every time you go there,
awesome.
You hear something new, and it was a lot of fun. See a lot of fun people.
It was really fun. What we always try to do when we pick something, we really agonize over where we're going to stay. We did when we stayed in Ireland, and we did this time too. We want there to be enough for us to do walk right out our front door.
Yeah.
We didn't ever want there to be, you have to get in the car to
do anything,
be active or do anything.
We were debating that in Ireland and getting a house kind of rural, in nature, and I'm so happy we didn't do that, because it would have been a pain to be able to have to get in the car just to go anywhere.
Right.
And I think that was something we were considering, mainly because of the price. It was a lot cheaper, but also like we were just thinking, well, we don't really know where to be. We want to be located. Maybe we can kind of be in the middle of everywhere. But being located in that town of Killarney was really nice. And then this was not necessarily, we were in like a Killarney type of thing where we could walk into town, but there was so much in this community that we were at, with the pool and the clubhouse. They even had like a 20-seat movie theater that we could dial up movies on Disney Plus and things like that. So kind of had that kind of like fun experience that you could do. And then there was a workout gym there for us to be able to keep the fitness goals going. The entire community, because it was gated, it was very walkable. There wasn't a lot of through traffic. So
lots of sidewalks. It was like basketball and
there was
pickleball courts,
volleyball, tennis courts. So there was a lot of like fun activities that we would not necessarily we would always do here at the house. I mean, we have some of those things here that we can walk to, but it really gave us a lot of activities to be able to do on what ultimately has to be the down days, and more than our trip to Ireland. The trip to Orlando was very park heavy, and
activity heavy,
and they are enormously stimulating. And we definitely noticed this time that we needed a lot more down days, and those down days had to be a lot more down than normal, because even the activities at the, the community, like if we were going to go play at the pool. I mean, I'm tossing children through the air in the pool and stuff. It wasn't like a super down experience. So
it wasn't super relaxing.
We had to really make sure that we had enough down days to counteract the really, the exciting nature of like what we were doing on a daily basis.
One of the things to remember, most places that you'd stay in anything, anywhere tropical like Orlando or anywhere in Florida, they're going to have some sort of pool. They're almost never going to offer life preservers. So we brought our own life jacket for our little one, and I'm so glad we did, because when we got there, we were able to kind of let her swim and didn't have to
agonize
worry
every minute, because you just knew she could float. And we had done you had scheduled a bunch of swim classes leading up to the travel, because we knew there was going to be so many pool and like water parks and things of that nature. We wanted to make sure that she was super comfortable with the water. And I think that was a really smart play. Doing a few sessions of that at our local YMCA, I think really broke that getting the water on the face fear, because she just became a fish. Like it was
worked
incredible.
Out really well.
It was incredible to have that done. And you're right, that bringing that life vest really, because she's about to turn 5, so she's essentially swimming, but not necessarily swimming. Like our older one is just swimming. She's a fish. She can go anywhere. But for her, it just gave you that nice sense of comfort, where anytime we were near water, it was really nice.
Yeah, so definitely bring your own. I think it wouldn't have been tough to find a life jacket, but you definitely would have had to do it. One of the things that we've done when we travel to, just thinking about the things you're going to accumulate, because especially when you stay for a month, you definitely accumulate a lot, and you accumulate like household things too, which, you're like, I need this, I need that. So what we like to do is we have carry-on size roller bags, and then we have the medium size. So there's like carry-on, medium, and there's the large ones. We don't have any of the large ones. We just have the medium and the small. So the small can fit inside the medium, and what we try to do is we always pack
a bag.
We pack one of the small ones inside a medium on the way there, so that on the way back we can take them apart. And that way we have essentially a whole medium suitcase with which to fill with all the souvenirs and stuff we bought while we were there that the kids won't let us leave behind, and that kind of stuff.
Well, a lot of times, like when you're going to a place this long, you're going to have to bring things along with you or purchase things when you get there. And for us, just having some entertainment, for our girls, that's Legos. So we can get a couple cheap Lego sets that they can play with, and arts and crafts type of stuff that we're going to do through the month. But obviously they're going to want to bring that back.
Yeah, that doesn't have to stay. That's not going to stay.
And unless you pack with enough room going there, for us, that's never the case. So being able to have an extra bag to stuff with, as you said, with the souvenirs and all the little things that we accumulate along the way, I think it's a super smart play, because you can still pack stuff into that bag on the way there. It's not like it's empty space. So you can definitely utilize it. You're not losing too much space on your way there, but then it gives you that extra roller bag on the way home. It
Right.
just proved to be very helpful.
Because I don't know what it is about going on a trip. And even if you give yourself a small bag just for souvenirs, let's say an extra one, sometimes we'll pack like one of those collapsible duffels we have. We could throw that in one of our bags and it's easy to take apart later. Even if you've thought about souvenir space, for some reason, all the stuff we brought, it's like a sleeping bag, right? It's never going to fit back into that bag that they sold it in. It will never go back in that bag. No. And for even if you have your souvenirs in one small, thing, whatever, you've accounted for that, somehow all the stuff that you brought from home will not fit back in the same dimensions that you got it. I don't know how that works, but it's always true. So definitely give yourself a little extra space. So that's some stuff about kind of where we stayed and a little bit about travel stuff. I think we're gonna have a YouTube video and show some of our favorite travel stuff because we have accumulated some really, really great things that have helped make travel easier for us.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the homeschool a little bit and what we wanted to do there because we're going for the month, but we don't want to stop learning. Obviously, we decided to take a break in our ancient history because we didn't want to bring all those books with us.
No.
So we really just decided to stay with math and reading for both girls and kind of leave the rest of it behind, knowing that we're going to get some science and some other cultural things. And we're going to have all those other learnings that are from the trip itself. So we just kind of scaled back into those essentials.
Yeah. So with respect to the girls homeschooling wise, as we had, I think, a couple episodes ago, we were talking about integrating our younger one now into the homeschool, having curriculum prepared for her now that she's starting to do on a daily basis. And the one that I started with was the Right Start Math. She's been kind of excelling in math. And so I said, okay, let's go ahead and get it started. So I brought along Right Start Math and a little kind of pencil case, where you put pencils and crayons and stuff. And I put all like the letter tiles. I brought the abacus. And I brought
that didn't go in the pencil case.
That did not go in the pencil case. And then a couple of homemade index card. They do these finger counting things where they show the fingers. So I made a couple real quick and I just kind of folded them in half and put them in there. And a couple other
popsicle sticks.
Yeah, popsicle sticks, obviously, for the tally sticks. So this is obviously Right Start A. So it's really basic at the beginning. And we had already done about 10 or 12 lessons going into our trip. So she was already familiar with it. So it wasn't something that I started with her on the trip. So I brought that along for her math and some of the activity sheets. There's some worksheets that you need to do as well. So I had a couple of those, we had them printed off and I kind of tucked those right into the book. So the form factor was pretty slim. It was just the workbook, obviously the big spiral bound book that Right Start has, and a few of the manipulatives that were going to be needed for, I guesstimated we were going to do 10 or 12 lessons. And we ended up doing, I think, 10. I think that's what we ended up doing. And I said, okay, I looked forward into the lessons and said, what do I need? Oh, I might need some, scratch paper. No worries. I'll get a legal pad when we get there. If I need some additional like rubber bands or something like that, because we're doing some geometric shapes, I can get that type of stuff when I'm there. But these manipulatives I can't bring, I can't get there. Maybe with the tiles I could have, but I wasn't really thinking. I said I could cram everything into this clamshell. No big deal, and I can go with that. I also printed off the Explode the Code A, the first lesson. And if you've checked out, I think, our YouTube channel, we've already probably released the Explode the Code review, so you can go check those out on all the reviews that we're doing. So I brought those two things for her, and that was in just a simple 1/2-inch white binder, and all the pages were tucked into that. We had done about, maybe like 10 or 12 pages leading up to the trip. So again, she was already familiar with this, and that's what I did with her. And then we continued doing that through the time we were there. For my oldest, as you said, we stopped the ancient civilizations. We have 2 more weeks to go. We've just finished, I think, the Byzantine Empire now, and then we got the last week coming up, I think, next week, and we'll be doing our videos on YouTube for those in the coming weeks. But for her, basically what I did is I brought Math Mammoth, because she's on the Math Mammoth review right now. So it's normally 2 books. We kind of finished the first book, and so I just pulled the last 20 pages because we have it printed off in a binder. So I pulled those out, put them in the second binder, and then that was what we did. So I just had one binder for math for her. It was very simple, 1/2-inch binder, super easy to do, especially as a workbook. And then I brought a separate workbook, another 1/2-inch binder which was Explode the Code 4. And then on I kind of reversed it and flipped the pages so that when you flip the binder over, then it's Beyond the Code. So in one binder, I was able to have Beyond the Code and the Explode the Code all at once. And between all of that, that is what we brought. And then I brought a couple reader books for her to just practice her reading. We're going to be going into the All About Reading Level 3 here coming up. So I went ahead and brought that their reader book along with us so that she could just get some experience reading the stories ahead of time. And then I brought a couple of, early reader books that she enjoys. And I think I had a Beatrix Potter book I found at Goodwill or something like that. So I brought that as well. And so she could have some more practice reading. Essentially, that was the homeschool that we brought. And it was just math and reading. And it kind of dovetailed with us ending some major curriculums and then doing our review curriculums, which tend to be more workbook focused. And then obviously the new stuff that I'm doing with my daughter, like my youngest, I haven't started the All About Reading with her yet. So I just staying with the Explode the Code, but I did bring the right start. So anyway, that was kind of the gist of what we brought. Having to consider both kids was something new for me. The last time we went, I didn't really have anything for my youngest. It was just maybe some simple like coloring pages and books and things of that nature. But for my oldest and now my youngest, it was a little bit more to bring. I had about 4 binders worth of stuff, but it was super tight and efficient. And I was able to put it all in my backpack, my carry-on bag. So I didn't really feel it was too much.
Yeah, we try as much as possible not to bring things that I'm worried about losing because I'm super paranoid about losing our curriculum.
Yeah.
So, we brought everything in the carry-on on the way over. And then on the way back, we were able to only bring like the Right Start book and the All About Reading books back in our carry-on. And we put everything else in the checked baggage because, it just made it all lighter. So as much as we can print things out, I think that's a great way to go. And just, scaling down, knowing that even though we had, days where we were just hanging out around the house and then we would go swim in the afternoon, you still weren't going to be able to get the level of homeschooling done that we were kind of used to at home. So I think it's setting yourself up to be realistic about, you are, even though you're kind of living there, you are still traveling. It is still unique. And the kids needed that downtime too, that not brain intensive time, because a lot of the activities we were doing were very stimulating. And there was lots that they were still kind of processing with that. So it was good to just give them some time to kind of, play and be and not have like so much rigorous work on the days off.
And we'll get into it on what the parks we did and all that type of stuff. But it did feel like the homeschool time this time around was a lot tighter. And I didn't have as much time to do homeschool with the kids as I did in Ireland. And I think it was just the nature of the activities that we were doing. Like they were more free-flowing activities that could go anytime. They were kind of open-ended. Hey, we're going to go to this castle, or we're going to go walk into town, or those things were, if you did it at 10 or 11, it's still the same thing. Yeah. This time we were more time sensitive in the sense that we'll talk about it, the reason why, but we were a little bit more time sensitive. So those days where I had to get my homeschool in, I had to do it in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit more time crunchy, but I don't think the girls were like overwhelmed or they didn't feel rushed. I just had to slip it in a lot easier. It was more of a challenge in that respect.
I think you do have to definitely plan, what your schedule is and when you'll do things as a family.
Yeah.
A lot of folks who are traveling for a long time like this do have at least one parent who's working remotely.
Yeah.
I think that that's something we hear kind of time and again. If you're able to get 4 weeks off or something completely without having to have anybody working, that is fabulous. I'm so happy that, people are able to do that. But I think a lot of people have somebody working remotely, either
some blended aspect,
full-time or part-time. I worked remotely for 2 weeks and then I was on vacation for 2 weeks. So the real difference was like in Ireland with the time change, I had to work on Seattle time. So I basically had the whole day with
the morning.
I had the whole day with the family until the afternoon when I started work, and I worked till, like midnight. And then you let me sleep in the morning. So it was like I was
always using that sleep in time that you were doing as my time to do the homeschool. I was actually doing my workout and my homeschool at the same time. And just kind of doing it all together because you were obviously sleeping because you had to work late.
Right. And then those evenings where I was working too, you would read books to the girls after dinner and things because I was working. So it kind of worked out. Whereas this time around, I had to start work at noon. So I would get up, at 7 a.m. with everybody. And that was like my core time to be with you guys before I had to start work. So, and that's prime homeschool time. So it was really difficult. It was like, you would take advantage of me sleeping an extra half hour and trying to, get things in. So that definitely took a little bit of getting used to. So if you do have a partner or yourself who's working remotely, I think really thinking about what that's going to look like. It ended up being that, it's funny when I got back to work, they were kind of like, other than meetings, you didn't have to work Seattle time. We would have been fine with you working, something else. So I thought, oh gosh, maybe I should have done things differently. Maybe I could have given more time. So, but you feel like, wow, this is really cool that I get to do this. And so I, want to accommodate the company as much as possible because they're so accommodating with me.
Well, it's also fortunate, I think, on the second time around here, now you've been able to do a customer visit as well. Like you actually got to get into the field and do some work there as well. And I think that's kind of a nice wrinkle that you're able to provide that for your company.
Right. Yeah. For the second time, I was able to take a couple of days during my work time and go
abandon your family.
Abandon my family. So if you can... So I guess the message is, if you're going to be working remotely, really to figure out how you're going to schedule that homeschool time. If you're going to try to maximize your time together as a family, is that going to infringe on your homeschool time? If you can set your work hours such that you're good with the kind of like afternoon into evening, and your company is good with that, boy, that worked out really nice.
That was nice in Orlando.
That was really nice because you basically have most of the day to spend together. So, different strokes, but just something to think about because the family does want to spend time together. And it's a little bit of a push-pull there that was something we had to consider. So that was mostly what we did for homeschool because we knew that there was so many enriching and engaging things in this area to do. And I think when you look to travel here, obviously you've got your Disneys and your Universals, which we'll talk about next week. But other than that, there is a lot of things that are clamoring for your attention. This entire town is meant to strip you of your hard-earned dollars.
Separate you from your wallet.
Yeah, the whole town. It's like everything is designed to like suck money out of you. And so it's really hard to know, like, what should we do or not do? What's worth it?
Yeah.
And so when you're going for a longer time too, you're thinking about things in different ways. Like if I can get into some place for just one day versus I can get some sort of a pass, that makes things a lot more economical. And
so let's talk a little bit about what we chose to do, and then maybe we can talk about some additional things that people can do.
Right.
Yeah. So we chose to, out of the myriad of parks and everything, with our age demographics that we have from 5 to almost 9. We decided the Legoland route for a season pass,
which is just like, it's like 55 minutes south of Orlando.
So it was kind of like between where we were. We were on the southwest location of Orlando, kind of the Kissimmee celebration area, just south of all the Disney parks. So all the major parks are to the northeast of us. Legoland is actually separate, even further southwest, about 40 minutes from where we were, which we were already on the bottom left of Orlando. Legoland actually is another 40 minutes southwest of us. So it was actually kind of way separated, but it proved to be really nice because the drives were not busy. The drive is actually very nice in the morning, driving down that road to get there. And then it was a wonderful experience. So we ended up going with the yearly pass for Legoland.
Right.
Which proved to be not that much more, like, what did it work out to be? If you went twice, you were breaking even, right? I think that's what it was.
I think you had to go, once you'd gone twice, I think you just about paid for it. So that third time was when it really made sense.
And what I liked about the Legoland season pass is that you got the free parking, which was also nice. So every time we went, we didn't have to pay for parking. We got in there, and it was nice because I could just go as much as I want. And just that freedom to just, I think this is a theme that I learned over the course of, obviously this is Orlando, so we have to like benchmark everything that we're saying is that this isn't true for other places. But for Orlando, being able to use the parks like a park, like a park, like just, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do some things, we're going to have some fun, and then we're going to leave. And it's, you don't have any pressure.
Yeah.
You don't have like, because going to a park, and I think we'll talk about this next week, with the pressure around the experience, especially like a Disney or a Universal, there are expectations, and that can bring a lot of pressure. Having something like a season pass to some park where you don't have that pressure, where you can just go do a couple rides, have a little bit of fun, eat some food or something, and then leave, and just be able to like do it again. We'll talk after this about what we did with SeaWorld and the SeaWorld parks, but that was so low stress and
it was liberating.
It was very liberating. And the funny thing was the first 3 times we went to the parks, I soloed with my 2 kids, and like thinking about soloing at an amusement park with 2 young kids, you're like, I don't want to lose them. I got to make sure they're happy. And like, there's a lot of pressure around that. But knowing that, hey, if we don't get to everything today, don't worry about it. We're going to come back in 2 days. And then if we don't do everything there, guys, guess what? We're coming back in another 2 days.
Yeah.
And knowing that there's that pressure has been pulled off of you is, it's hard to explain unless you do it. Like
it's true. And so, so one of the things to know about everything except Disney.
Yes.
And Universal maybe too, but really just Disney. Everything except Disney pretty much gives Black Friday deals.
Yep.
So
you picked up our Legoland
keep
stuff
this in mind.
On Black Friday deal.
I did. It was going to be...
I remember you were sitting there at the computer. We had still recovering from Thanksgiving, and you had your laptop. I'm getting deals.
Yeah. Well, so it was going to be $750 for the 3 of you, all 3 of you together, total, to get the annual pass to Legoland, and I was able to get it for $650 for Black Friday.
But also it has the add-on to their water park as well.
The water park is in the back of the park for Legoland, and it included the $25 parking. And it gave you, which was included in that, so it was free parking every time. It also gave you like 10% off all of your purchases, which I guarantee you, if you have Lego-loving children and you go to Legoland, you're going to buy a couple of at least small Lego sets. It's just the way this goes. So getting a discount on that was also nice. The really cool thing that came with that is that you also got unlimited access to Orlando's aquarium. It's a Sea Life Aquarium, and Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and the Orlando Eye, which is the really big Ferris wheel.
Yeah, they called it Icon Park.
Right,
and I think they're owned by the same parent company or something like that. So by going to Legoland, we saw that we got access, as you said, to this aquarium, Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and this giant 400-foot tall Ferris wheel that takes 20 minutes to circle, right?
So obviously Madame Tussauds and the Ferris wheel are just fun things. They're not really educational. The Ferris wheel is 400 feet tall, and you have a lot to see, and there's a lot to point out.
You realize just how flat Florida is, especially coming from a mountain state like we are.
The aquarium, obviously, right? The educational opportunities are
a wonderful aquarium.
There's just a wealth of opportunity. Even if you don't get it with the Legoland pass, you should absolutely go to the aquarium there on a hot day. It is a great experience. Our kids, we ended up going like twice to the aquarium.
Yeah, twice.
And the Legoland is awesome because, of course, there's rides and things which are very fun, but there's also lots of opportunities for building. There's building stations everywhere. There's even building stations while you're in line for rides. There is a lot to learn. There's building Lego cars and racing them. And so there's, if you've got a STEM type kid who loves all things Lego, that park is a really lovely mix of rides and education with lots of things to do and, experiments to take. Then you can build Lego boats and you can sail them down and you race your Lego boats. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things. There's a gal we followed, Carissa Travels, and we'll link it in the show notes because she's awesome. She does the most thorough, in-depth park or attraction reviews. Like, she goes to everything. She literally looks at every single thing. It's important to know
Carissa's positive about everything. And so she's going to give you tell you what's in the park. And we have a couple other channels.
I mean, she tells you everything to eat, everywhere to shop, just everything.
But we have other ones that we'll recommend as we go through here that maybe a little bit more critical, like, hey, maybe you don't want to do this and you want to do this.
Right. Yes. So we use Carissa to watch everything that's there. And then we
called her the propaganda.
Right. And then we use the Frugal Brit, which was another YouTuber we really like, who kind of goes through it quicker. And he really gives you not worth it or worth it type thing. Yep. So Legoland is really best for kids I would say 10 and under.
Oh, yeah.
If you got kids older than that, I mean, look, we love Legos. You enjoyed yourself. It wasn't like you can enjoy yourself, but all of the rides are really geared for those littler ones. Our youngest was just over 44 inches, and she could go
on every single ride
but one,
except one ride. And this is an important consideration.
Very important.
The height of your young child really mattered. Like, for example, our oldest only met the requirements for the Universal Park by 1 inch. And so
for some of it,
yeah. And so some other parks I think are 48-inch height requirements. So you really check out the height requirements for all the rides.
Exactly. SeaWorld and Universal are really known for having most of SeaWorld, basically almost everything you have to be like in the 50s, like 54 inches. For Universal, there is some stuff for kids, but the really cool stuff is all for taller.
Yeah.
So if you've got little ones,
the Legoland
is great.
Perfect.
And it's definitely a lot more like low key. It's just not as go as the other parks. You don't have to strategize and plan or get your express skip the line pass or any of that stuff.
And there's a lot more kids at this park, even considering all the other parks. I mean, other than Magic Kingdom, which is a monster. It's its monster in and of itself. All the other parks we went to, this is where the youngest kids were at.
Right. And they've got great Duplo sections. Their water park is not huge, but it's pretty solid. And it, again, doesn't have rides for a lot of really tall
and the secret thing about
requirements either.
The water park is you can't get into the water park unless you buy a ticket to Legoland. So it's not like you can come in and just do the water park.
Yeah.
So it actually kind of like keeps out a lot of people. And so it's not as busy as, say, like an Aquatica or something of that nature.
Right. Yeah. It's or Volcano Bay from Universal or Blizzard Beach from Disney. Yeah, you can't just go in. And so people have to basically either have stayed a couple of days at the Legoland resort, and there is a resort right there. If you think you're just going to go and do Legoland, awesome, just stay at the resort and use the park right there. I think if you've got young kids and you want to do something, obviously they can ride a lot of things at Magic Kingdom, but most of the other parks, they're really geared for kids who are over 40 inches, 42 inches minimum, but 44 better. Legoland is really right in that zone if you've got little ones.
Especially our youngest, that was the biggest one because
I think that was actually her favorite park.
It was the thing she could do the most at.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn there. There's tons of educational opportunities. If you're a Lego family and you love that, I don't think you should skip it.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of our number one savings.
And that was nice because it kind of got us into learning about getting to parks on time, understanding parking, understanding lines, understanding expectations.
Universally with theme parks, and we have learned this, if you are not there at rope drop, you are late.
You are late.
You need to be there like 15 minutes before rope drop, even at Legoland. Because
but that's 15 minutes early and you're at the rope. That means you have parked. You got into the park. To be 15 minutes early at the rope drop means you have to be there 40 minutes ahead of time, 45 minutes ahead of time.
We would pack breakfast for the kids on the road. So you would get there early, you'd park, you guys would have breakfast in the parking lot. So you knew you were already there, and then you could leisurely walk to the gate. Everyone could go potty. Everyone could be ready. Put on sunscreen. You could do all those things. The reason that we say this is, look, if you've got annual passes somewhere and you're going to go tons of times, then you don't care. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, the very best time in the park is that like half hour after the rope drop, where those things that get long lines, even at Legoland, there's some stuff that just gets long lines and you can ride things over and over. And that is like the most, our kids loved that time where you got things, first. You
got to ride the same. We also, this is kind of a thing we learned about when there are high flow days. Like we actually went to Legoland on our first day, and it was the spring break week.
Yeah, it was the first week of our trip. It was the last week of spring break.
There's a lot of people here. The lines were super long. I was like, oh man. So the second time we went was the following week, and I said, oh man, I'm going to get there super early, 9:30. We're going to be there at the rope drop. I want to get these rides that we missed and all this type of stuff. And then none of the waits were longer than 10 or 15 minutes. And I was like, whoa, we got hit by spring break last week. So definitely be aware of when and where you're going, because, and I think you'll talk about that a little bit more next week, about, these heavy weeks and heavy months and heavy days.
We know spring break that's just a tough one, and
I just didn't even realize
that was the first week of our trip, and we were leaving spring break. So we thought, oh, it's Legoland, it's an hour south of the city, it can't be that bad. And it really wasn't that bad.
It wasn't terrible.
But it definitely, there were some waits. The other really great thing about Legoland is they let you bring in your own food.
Oh, yes.
So you can bring in
biggest win right there.
Disney and Legoland are the only two, just so you kind of get this in your mind, that allow you to bring in your own food. The other parks, that is no bueno. So they let you bring in food, which is awesome. So I think that's the most we have to say. I mean, we could talk ad nauseum about Legoland, but it's a really great.
So that allowed us
initial one.
Yeah, that allowed us to essentially, I went 3 times to Legoland. I went 2 times to the Icon Park. That's 5 days of activities and things to do, and I kind of spread that over the course of about 8 or 10 days. Mm-hmm. And then we went ahead and you had a day off, and we went to Discovery Cove. Right.
So I want to talk a little bit about the SeaWorld Discovery Cove. So SeaWorld owns obviously the SeaWorld water park. They own a park called Aquatica, which is their water park with water slides and everything. And then they own Discovery Cove, which is more like a wildlife park. Yeah. And I don't know if they've always owned it, but they're right next to each other.
But it's like it's a water. It's not like Animal Kingdom with Disney. It's a kind of like we were kind of joking when we were in there. We're like, this feels like an all-inclusive resort that's meant like we're at the beach and we're going to, swim with the dolphins and swim with the fish and all this type of things. And it was a wonderful park. We absolutely loved it. And you found this deal for us to go to Discovery Cove.
Right.
And then to put an add-on in some respect.
Yeah. So again, I got another Black Friday deal, although I think I only saved like $50 this time, but it was like $460 for the 4 of us. Yeah. $465
to go to Discovery Cove.
To go to get this deal. So and I think it would have been maybe $500 for all of us before, like a non-Black Friday time for four people. So what it is you get a whole day at Discovery Cove, and then you get 14 days of unlimited access to SeaWorld and Aquatica as much as you want. Now, the 14 days can start before your time at Discovery Cove, in the middle of your time at Discovery Cove. It's just 14 days around it. We ended up doing Discovery Cove first.
Yeah, because we did all this Legoland Icon Park thing because you were working and it was me just kind of doing stuff with the kids. And then essentially the vacation started.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did this Discovery Cove. Yeah. So the one thing that they don't tell you about this deal is you still have to pay for parking, which is $30 a day at SeaWorld and Aquatica. Yeah. But when you're at Discovery Cove, you can buy a 14-day parking pass for $25. I have not seen that written anywhere online, so I'm telling you about it.
We did it on the way out, and we asked about it when we got in. They said, do it at the end.
It was brilliant.
When we left, they just essentially... we get these passes that are on a lanyard and it validates one of them. And we just kept showing that everywhere we went, and we didn't have to pay for parking.
So it was under $500 with the parking and everything for this whole deal. So let's talk about Discovery Cove. I want to say that of all the days we did, and we did some fabulous days, Discovery Cove might have been my favorite. So if you...
in its totality.
If you haven't heard of Discovery Cove, it is a wildlife-based park. And it is, like you say, it's like an all-inclusive resort. So for your money, for what you spend for the day, which I think you could normally get in for a day for like $100 or maybe a little bit less than $100 a person. So what you get for the day is it's free parking. You get in, they serve all you can eat breakfast. Then they give you snorkel gear and wetsuits to wear for the day. Sunscreen's available. In the bathrooms, there's real towels, real hand towels, and there's beach towels, and there's beach chairs everywhere.
Then they have
life vests,
food kiosks that have fountain drinks and water and everything. All
there's
the stuff
unlimited drinks.
Everything.
There's unlimited beer, wine, snacks, pizza.
I think the cocktails you had to pay a little bit.
There was
more
extra for cocktails. But I mean, there's that. Like we were so. It was like so hot. It was like, oh, I don't want to get dehydrated with cocktails. But there was unlimited. There was a full buffet lunch that you could have with lots of choices. Was the food stellar? No. Was it totally fine? Yes. There was some things
that were really good on there. That pork was really good.
There was something for everyone to eat, right? It was kind of like a hotel buffet.
It was very nice.
Yeah. It was a full breakfast. Everyone had enough to eat. And then the full lunch and then the snacks all the way through the afternoon, and it closed at 5. So Everything was included. You literally walked in.
The mango slushy machine was the hit with the 5-year-old.
The pina colada slushy. It was not an alcoholic. It was just like a pina colada icy. It was amazing. Okay. Anyway, there's even showers there with shampoo and soap and everything for you to get cleaned up at the end of the day. So literally the only thing you have to do is walk in with your wallet, and the rest of the day you don't need to bring anything. You don't need to bring food or towels or sunscreen or any of it. So for us busy moms and dads who are just got to remember all these things, it was a dream. Additionally, they'll give your kids sand toys. You do have to go ask for them. So they're not just sitting there. You do have to ask. But they'll give your kids sand toys to play in the sand. So that part of it's amazing. And what do you do when you're there? So there's a couple main areas. The one big area is called the Grand Reef, and that's where you get to snorkel with fish and debarbed stingrays. And that was amazing. And there's kind of a crevice in the middle of it where the stingrays,
about 12, 15 feet deep. Yeah.
Right. And they've got plenty of life vests and things.
There were like 100 people swimming around you, but it was really cool.
Right. There's no fins, but you do get snorkel and mask. And you can actually reach out and touch these rays. It was so peaceful. It was so safe. You could just walk right off the beach
Our girls
into this.
were absolutely fascinated.
It was wonderful.
Half the time you're just standing there trying to fix your thing, and all of a sudden this giant stingray bumps into you and like swims around. It's like it's an experience.
It was amazing.
And if we're thinking about terms of homeschool and education, having that type of close contact with underwater sea life without the risk and fear, especially the gator shark that I kept telling my daughters to look for. It's a dad joke when another dad, and you go, hey, Mr. Other Dad, have you seen any gator sharks? And they look right at you and they say, no, not yet. We're looking for them.
Yeah, they don't miss a beat.
But anyway, so they just having that close contact with the underwater sea life, I thought both of our daughters were just over the moon excited about this.
You could absolutely do a whole study about the types of fish and the rays that you'll see before you go. Yeah. And then that would mean so much more. They also have an area, a freshwater lagoon area without any fish, but they have kind of a lazy river that goes all the way around
This was the best lazy river I have ever been on.
Because it moved, but it was so peaceful, and it was all covered in jungle lushness. And part of it, you go through the aviary. So you can either go through the aviary in the river, or you can go on land, and they hand you bird food, and they have all these cards with all these beautiful birds.
And there's people there to help you, assist you, and talk about the birds.
And people will talk to your kids about the birds. You can ask any questions you want. And the great thing about Discovery Cove is they cap all the admission. So they only let in a certain amount of people since they're feeding everybody and everything. So there aren't any lines. There's no rushing. There's no running. There's no yelling.
No attraction. There's no waiting for anything.
There's no slides or anything.
No.
This is just, but you get this chance. So if your kids like love birds, or we were feeding different kinds of birds.
Well, what's really cool is you can, as you said, you can access it from the lazy river, and you're like, well, how do you do that? Well, they had these waterfalls, and so you go under the waterfall and then into the aviary, and then when you exit the aviary, you go through another waterfall, so it just keeps the birds in, and you're just like, this is an amazing experience.
It was amazing. And in that area as well, they have a couple places on land. They have these mammal talks where they'll bring out sloths and things, and they'll talk to the kids about them. You can ask questions. There's a whole flock of flamingos that just, they walk through the park occasionally, but there's like a little flamingo paddock in the back, and you can go and you can ask them all kinds of questions.
Some monkeys too as well. Yeah.
There's monkeys. And so there's a few different animals that you could absolutely research before you go. And then your kids could go and see them up close. And this was such a calm day. I highly, highly recommend. And if you are going to be traveling with somebody who can't walk a bunch of the day, like grandma and grandpa are going with you
Discovery
or something,
Cove is the place.
This is the
place.
Because
if you're not ready to log 20, 11, 12 miles at Disney, and you can't do that, like what you said, Discovery Cove is that great alternative.
It's fabulous. So,
but also, in the main segment reef, you can do the dolphin experience if you want to do something like that.
But sharks.
We didn't go for that. It's very expensive,
and we felt it was overrated.
Yeah.
And you needed to be older.
And the funny thing is, you can stand there on the beach, and they're like 15 feet away, and you're like, I'm watching your dolphin experience.
Right. They just stand a bunch of people in a line for you to each
touch a dolphin, and then you get to ride with a dolphin. Hey, listen, for some people, that's the thing.
If it's for you, we felt that the extra upsell stuff was overrated. Get the initial thing, and you'll probably be very happy for the day.
There's a few things they try to upsell you on, but you don't need that, and you'll have a great time.
So that was that. And then we went to SeaWorld. Now, SeaWorld has a number of really intense roller
Man,
coasters.
SeaWorld has changed since we left Florida.
It has changed. It has
Holy
some
cow.
really intense roller coasters. You got to be taller for it. It has a couple of water rides, which are very popular and get really long lines. The rest of it is all the, there's the shows of the different sea life, and there's also, the dolphin nursery, and there's aquarium pieces and
the manatees and all that
yeah,
stuff.
SeaWorld has got a lot of stuff that I think everyone kind of knows what there is to do and see at SeaWorld. One of the extra kind of nuggets for us is that during this springtime, I think they were actually doing it for 3 months. Every year they do the Seven Seas Food Festival where they have booths with food from different countries or different regions of the U.S., which was a really fun thing, especially as we're getting ready to start our around the world journey. We were able to go and do that. If you go during that time for the food festival, SeaWorld doesn't let you bring in any food, and their food is all extremely expensive. So I would recommend eating a nice big breakfast before you go, but maybe don't ride those intense roller coasters right after.
Guys, take a knee. SeaWorld, people listening, close your ears. You can definitely sneak food into that park.
I will neither confirm nor deny the protein bars that entered with us.
There may have been a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something stuffed in that bag.
Anyways, the food's pretty expensive there. If you go during one of their food festivals where they have lots of food booths, they do sell like a lanyard where you can get the taste.
That definitely paid for itself.
Right. They ended up being like $5 a plate rather than $12 a plate,
yeah.
$11 to $12. So, be conscious because SeaWorld keeps their prices pretty low for entrance, and then they really charge the heck out of the food. So just be ready for that. That's and the food's not great. It's just they charge a lot.
Yeah, it's just like fair food. I mean,
well,
really.
the Seven Seas
isn't. Yeah.
That was really good, but the regular food at SeaWorld, not amazing.
Yeah.
There is like a Sesame Street land there for the littler kids, but I would say if you were bringing a littler kid to SeaWorld and they're not really into marine animals, it's not a great place for rides because they can't ride hardly anything.
Exactly.
And our little one was really disappointed that she couldn't ride these big, cool roller coasters.
She wanted to, but there were only the two rides that she could, which was the Atlantis ride, which is a water ride,
rides,
and then the Infinity Falls, and those were the only two she could do.
But because those are the only two kind of cool family rides that little kids can ride, they're extremely popular.
Yeah.
So we went to SeaWorld like 2.5 days. We had a really good time there.
Yep.
Kind of you know what SeaWorld's about. Just be on the alert for the food thing because they're going to get you. But otherwise, it was a great experience. Yep. Then we went to Aquatica, which is SeaWorld's water park.
It's literally across the street.
Yeah, these three parks are right next to each other.
Yeah, like you can when you're on the top of the Atlantis ride, you can see the water park, and they're staring back at you across the street. Yeah, it's funny.
And if you have a parking pass, you can go between.
Yes.
You could
because you went and got your validated parking at the Discovery Cove. You can just hop between them.
Right. So you could like go to SeaWorld in the morning and then hop over to Aquatica in the afternoon. Yes. You can't go back to Discovery Cove. So let's just be clear about this 14-day thing. Discovery Cove, that's the one day. Yeah. And you have to make a reservation for that day.
You have to specifically pick a day too.
Right, because they got to buy enough food and everything for everyone. But the other parks, it's kind of a free-for-all. Aquatica was amazing. We thought as a water park, it was terrific.
There was only, I think, 1 or 2 of the water rides that our youngest couldn't go on. There was actually, surprising enough, I wasn't able to go on because I was over the 150 mark that they need. The
250 mark.
250 mark. Yeah, the 250. There's a couple rides where they are concerned about the total weight of people on the inner tubes and then the individual weight. And I was 10, 15 pounds over that, but a muscular 10, 15 pounds over. Yeah. But I was over. All muscle. I was surprised. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go on this ride.
So if you're looking for a water park, Volcano Bay Universal is, I hear that one's really good. We didn't do it. No. We didn't do one of the Disney ones. The SeaWorld park was really solid. Again, not allowed to bring in any food, and the food is super expensive, and we will not comment on the things that may or may not have entered the park with the Booza family. But just know that that's another one.
They're just towels, don't look.
There's another one where they're trying to get you on the food thing. Also, we will show you in our video, there's a great little lockbox.
Exactly how he snuck the food in?
No, there's a great little lockbox we saw somebody else using to lock up your valuables onto the chair when you leave. Like, what do you do with your wallet and stuff?
Guys, we were sitting there. We found our spot right in front of the giant splash kid zone with the giant bucket. That was our youngest daughter wanted the giant bucket that dumped all the water on top of her. But Ariel has never bought something so fast on Amazon than when the guy sitting next to us pulls out this like cable lockbox that he went between 2 or 3 of the chairs and then like clipped it together. We were like, what? What is this? He goes, oh, I've been coming for years. I have this thing. I don't pay $30 for a lock thing. I put my wallet and my phone in this thing.
Right.
And
He
we're
just
like,
threw his towel over the top of. We were like,
what?
And we came into the water park twice more, and they saw us with this lockbox, which I got like next day from Amazon, and there was no problem entering the park with it. But it was a great place to keep your phone.
I used it
and
at the
stuff dry
at the pool at the condo. It was
anywhere you need to go.
It was just
and
enough.
Get wet.
It was enough to put keys, a phone, a wallet, and maybe like headphones. Like,
yeah,
that's about it.
Wasn't huge, but we would get in, we would lock it around our chairs, throw a towel over it so nobody knew it was kind of there, and then
I doubt somebody brought like a big, cable snips into the park.
So that was really cool. Additionally, we bought some amazing phone lanyard holders where our phones went into them and they were waterproof. I literally swam with these things for days in lazy rivers.
We have
and
some
stuff.
of our best family photos was because we had these things.
Right, because everyone has them.
Oh my God, you see them everywhere.
The ones we bought, it was like, I don't know, $10 for 2.
Yeah.
So I will link the ones we got because I can vouch for the ones we got did not leak. We tested the heck out of them. So that was our kind of Aquatica, SeaWorld, Discovery Cove combo thing, which if you're going to be in that area for a while, that is like well worth your time and effort. If you're not going to be in for a while, I think, and you only have time to do one thing, absolutely do Discovery Cove.
Yeah, with the add-on.
Especially if your kids like animals,
Yep.
I think that was way better than doing SeaWorld. Any day, our kids enjoyed that way more, even though there wasn't the shows and stuff.
But just that whole Discovery Cove, SeaWorld, Aquatica package, that is, pound for pound, it's the best thing in the park.
It was the best deal that we got for a family of 4.
Especially with us trying to do, you're trying to fill 30 days. How are you going to do that? You're going to pay for every single park individually? Heck no. You got to do something special like this.
Right, you do have to group. And even if we weren't there for that long, I think we
would have done that package.
It's still, even if you only want to go to SeaWorld and Aquatica each just one day after Discovery Cove, it was still
well worth it.
It was still worth it. It was still cheaper.
So let's talk a little bit about other things you can do.
Right.
That is not Disney and Universal.
Right. So there were some other things we didn't get to. There's a wildlife park south of Orlando, and there's Gatorland, which is in Orlando. We did not go.
Frugal Brit kind of convinced us not to go there.
Yeah, but if your kids are really into and you really want to do reptiles and stuff, that it would be a great place to go. They have lots of cool stuff to see. So there is also the Orlando Zoo, which we did not get up to. And so those are a couple things in the area. We'll put links that we didn't get to, but definitely you could, especially if you have animal-loving kiddos. There's also a few really neat springs in the area. You can rent kayaks, and you can or canoe or swim. And you can see manatees and things. So there's some really cool natural stuff. And then, of course, at the coast, there's Kennedy Space Center.
Awesome.
Now they
have really filled that thing out.
They have. Now that was
full disclosure. I used to work at Kennedy for a couple of summers, and I used to drive right by this place.
They've done a lot to it.
Drove right by the Rocket Garden for months, and man, this place is way different now. Like we looked it up. We were about ready to do it, but I think we decided not to do it because our 5-year-old would have just not gotten any of it. I think our oldest would have been fine with it, but she would have just been bored out of her skull. Yeah,
we looked into it when we watched the Carissa video, which was awesome. If you have a kid that's into science,
this is the place.
100% you got to go. It's
a little pricey, but I think
it was like $65 a piece,
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. It was a little bit pricey, but it looked amazing. And we would have totally geeked out on it. I mean, we would have been all about it.
Oh, I was so excited.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm just like looking at the little kid. I'm like, you're going to hate this place.
Because it's a lot of kind of like museums and exhibits. It's a lot of exhibits. And, while I want to walk under a Saturn V rocket, I think that sounds amazing.
Who doesn't?
Right. And our older daughter would have definitely really geeked out on it too. We knew that we were going to spend the entire day telling our 4-year-old, no, we're not done yet. No, we're not. No, we're not going to go outside. You just have to be quiet. Like we knew we were just going to be shushing her the entire day.
Just keep shoving peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
So, it's a reason to go back. It's a reason to go back. But if this also sounds like you, the other thing that we got to do while we were on the coast is we actually got to see a launch. So you can go and look at the launch schedule, and we got to watch a rocket launch from Kennedy. We just went to the beach south of there.
We were right at
Like
it's weird.
Space Force Base.
It's so weird to say Patrick Space Force Base. I always knew it was Patrick Air Force Base, but Patrick Space Force Base. And we were just on the coast there, right on the water. And we got to look north on an evening launch of, I think it was a Falcon.
It was a Falcon 9.
Falcon 9 that not only took off, but landed back at the Cape. So we were able to watch the whole launch, and then we were able to watch it land again. And that was really cool. Totally did not impress our daughters.
Right, because it's kind of tiny when you actually see it in because you can't get super close
angle,
to it.
I think you can see the VAB. It's just this little building off in the distance, and then you see it launch, and you can hear it after about 30 or 40 seconds. You can start hearing the rocket, but they were just totally not.
If you went up to Cocoa Beach, it'd be a little bit better, but
yeah,
it's still not going to be huge because even if you get as close as you can get, the launch pad is so far out there. It's not huge. But it was cool because you can watch on your phone while you're standing there waiting. You can watch them, getting ready in the sequence. Yeah. You can watch it take off on the video. It was a live stream
on YouTube. Yeah.
It's a great live stream. So that's a fun experience if you have kids that are into space stuff. I think going to Kennedy, and that's a whole day activity. There's like a bus, and you go tour you drive by the pads, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's to do. That I think that when we go back someday, when our kids are older, we will absolutely go. Yeah. And do that. And then, of course, there's the beach, and there's all the birds at the beach, and, the other things to learn about.
We did a whole beach day as well, and it's very fun to play with water that's playing back.
Right. And you got to be careful.
Because we're so used to rivers and lakes here. The ocean water, to go to the ocean takes a long time from where we are, and then the water in the Puget Sound is just wicked cold all the time. So it's not really something you want to frolic and play in. When we go out onto the Pacific side, again, that water's super cold. It tends to be very cold when you're there, and it's not really something you want to go run and play in. It was really fun to watch the girls, especially with the young one with the life vest on. Seeing her kind of doing boogie boarding stuff through the waves. Cool. Obviously, I was there, kind of I was throwing her into the waves, and she was riding, but she just had a great time. So did the older one, and having fun playing with water that's nice and warm is a lot of fun.
So I think this kind of concludes what we wanted to talk about. Yeah. Obviously it's been a long episode, and I know there's been a lot of information. We probably talked really fast. We're sorry. Yeah. There was just kind of so much to say about this.
If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the Facebook group. Yeah. Ariel will get in there and
right. If there are questions about Disney and Universal, hang on. That'll be next week. But I'm happy to answer any questions. We're going to go
into the weeds next week.
Yeah, because we know a lot of people want to plan a Walt Disney World trip or Universal trip. And there's a lot to unpack here, you guys. I did a lot of research. There's a lot to know from all these other things that we did. Yep. I think the one thing I'd take away from Orlando in general, if you are not a Disney family or not into Universal, you don't want to spend let's face it, that the prices are exorbitant to go there.
Oh, I can't believe they're getting what they're getting.
Right. They're really pricey. And we didn't, as much as we talk about all these things we did, those parks that we did 1 day at Universal and 3 days at Disney. Of 30 days we were there. We barely touched those because they were so darn expensive. Yeah. So, if the expense of it is all you're not going to do those parks, I still think there is a ton in the Orlando area for you and your family to do. And there's so much to learn between the animals and the space things to do. Yeah, the wildlife, the marine animals. I mean, there's a lot of things to see and learn in that local area that I think still make it really worthwhile, even if you're not going to spend Disney bucks to go.
We also took our first Uber drives. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this and it shed some light on a couple of options for Orlando. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
happy homeschooling!